You're listening to FFOP Radio.
Reach the
Hey everybody, and welcome to the show. My name's Dave, and this is a Fistful Podcast from FFOPradio.com. Finally got it right. Back for a great week. Like I said, my name is Dave. Let me introduce you to my guest / co-host / paleontologist, buddy of mine, Gavin McCullough, back on the show. How's it going, man?
Hello. It's great to be back here for a three-peat, I believe.
Three-peat, yeah. Business. Classic hat trick.
Yes.
That's what they call it.
That's what a hat trick is.
Yeah, or turkey. Depending. Sure. We've got some rumblings around the show for a Turkey Tuesday, so we'll talk about it. Also, let's introduce Krista over there on the couch.
I am on the couch.
So, Gavin, let's unpack a little bit in case someone is brand new to the show. Paleontologist here at the Arizona Museum of Natural History. The end. So let's crack it open. We go way back. I've been bugging you for years, like trying to squeeze information about dinosaurs out of you. But let's not serve me alone. You know what I mean? Let's talk about you for a minute. You seem like an interesting character. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Refresh my memory. If we've gone over it, we'll go over it again.
What makes you tick?
What? Yeah. What's up with that, man?
Coffee makes me tick. Thank you for providing coffee.
Where's your favorite blend from? This is a Guatemalan blend. If it's still the stuff that I bought from before, I tell you what, the Guatemalans know how to make a nice bean.
My favorite coffee that I know of, that I can name all the types of all the little bits, is an Ethiopian shade-grown medium blend. Sorry, medium roast.
Okay, yeah. I stick to the medium myself, but the Ethiopian stuff seems a little acidic to me. It's a little too earthy. Like anything for me, whatever. Everybody's going to be a coffee snob because everybody wants to and then spit it into a nice little silver.
Ugh. I think we got some of the Ethiopian stuff from
and it was too acidic and it's got a bite. If you like coffee with a bite, go African. If you like a nice smooth sort of floral chocolatey experience, you go south of the border. It's way south of the border. South, there's no borders left. You go Chile, you go Ecuador, Brazil. All those people make great coffee.
Coffee without borders.
Yeah.
That's wow. I'm tearing up. That's pretty good.
That's a good one.
That's good.
You should write that down.
Was it? Maybe I will. Who knows? Yeah. This is all just off, we're talking about coffee, for God's sake. Let's talk about you.
I like coffee.
Well, yeah, so let's unpack that. Who is the guy who likes coffee? Are you a Arizona local? Did you come from far away?
No, I'm an Arizona local.
Okay.
I was born in what I think is now a parking lot in Phoenix.
Okay. That's the running gag of this show. Everybody I come on, and they're local, it's like, oh, I was born in the place that's now a parking lot, or it's now Banner owns it, or now it's a squatter's paradise.
Yeah. I think it's still the case that there's a lot of people in the Phoenix area, at least, who were born here, and they still kind of stick around, or they come back, maybe.
Yeah. Phoenix is a crazy place, because if you're born here, you stick here. It's hard to pry you out. But since it is so desirable for some reason, everybody who is here is not from here. Like, it's so crazy that you actually grew up here like I did. She didn't. Everybody I grew up working with, and they were like, oh, I'm from Maryland or whatever. I was like, does anybody live here? But it's so crazy because where are we? Here's one. I found 3 so far. I can confirm. Beyond that, woo. So, Arizona local, what got you into paleontology?
My first, I guess, generic, but I think my first memory of seeing cheap cardboard dinosaurs on the wall of my kindergarten classroom. And I kind of went, what the heck are those? And I was, 4 years old and stupid. And
are we all at 4?
I don't know.
You can't be trusted.
I'm 46 and stupid.
I got a 2-year-old. I trust him. Imagine how much I trust him. He's half of 4. Yeah, it's half of nothing. What?
But he's at the stage where he is basically nothing but a scientist, right? Because he's figuring everything out. Can I put this in my mouth?
It's crazy.
That's a test. And then
it's bizarre to watch somebody like what this isn't supposed to be about me, but it's insane to watch a newly formed human like experience something. You're like, don't you get it? And you're like, no, they don't.
They don't.
And he's got a classic example. He's got one of those little snack things. It's like one of those Star Trek 8 iris doors that's all rubber so you can't spill your food. And watching him understand that is hilarious because he will wear it like a bracelet and try to throw it off, not realizing what's happening. And I'm just like, how do you not? Because it's a blank slate.
Mm-hmm.
You have a little tabula rasa, if you will.
Yeah.
So strange. But enough about me. We're talking about you.
That was it, I guess. I mean, I saw those, and then I guess my parents decided, well, that's a harmless little hobby. We'll get him all the books and let him kind of indulge in that instead of whatever else 4-year-olds do, going out and scoring smack, or I don't know what they do.
Yeah, I was out with a vicious street gang of really rough Satanists at 4.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of where it started, and I guess I don't know. They say sometimes people just never grow up, I guess. And people say that kind of derisively, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You need to not grow up. So that's an interesting aspect that now I need to like dig into a little bit. So somebody or something must have kept that fire burning for you. Was it a person? Was it a thing? Like, was it just you with the drive?
I think maybe some of it was, someone brought this up recently. Maybe my friend Nikki here, who is joining us silently on the side.
Silent spectator.
She's a silent spectator. She is also a former museum. She worked at the Arizona Museum of Natural History for a while. But were you the one telling me that because I was only child is maybe the reason I stayed interested in paleontology? Yeah. So I think that might be it. I mean,
really?
I mean, I had, friends and stuff, but I didn't always have someone around. So maybe there was just this kind of, I'm going to just draw dinosaurs and stuff when I can't. Like after my friends go home or something. And
this feels more like circumstance. Like this is the fireplace, Gavin. You're giving me the fireplace, and I want the fire. What kept it burning? You know what I mean? Like somebody or something must have always been on your shoulder, being like, "Dinosaurs, dude, check them out."
You know what? There wasn't somebody. No, I think there was just It was the only interesting thing about the early '80s. Maybe I don't know.
I'll agree with you on that one, my friend. Holy cow!
I just remember all the books and. One weird thing I do remember is there was a thing called the bookmobile when I was a little kid.
Oh, yeah.
Which, oh my gosh, this is going to go turn back around to pop punk in a minute. I'm going to tell you why.
Hang tight after
Sorry.
this.
Yeah. And that was a food truck style van that would, I guess, go around Phoenix. I think I don't know if they were in every city, but they do the libraries on wheels.
They probably still do it, right?
I don't know.
There's got to be a bookmobile.
Was it just like free books?
It was like a library. It was actually part of the Maricopa County library system. It was kind of like its own, like you'd check out a book and...
Yeah, if you want to talk about old-timey goodness, I used to go to the library and check out books.
Yeah.
What's that?
What's that? What's going on?
Holy crap. You used to have to take home a physical object made out of a non-renewable resource? Dear Lord.
Yeah.
The Dewey Decimal System.
Oh.
Ugh.
No, thanks, Mr.
You know what?
Dewey.
Let's not... I think you got to all calm down about the Dewey Decimal System.
It was confusing.
We've got our differences.
Once you figure it out, I don't know if I could right now, but I remember it was one of those things where this makes sense now.
Well, yeah,
kind of
it's like learning Latin. Once it clicks, you go, aha, now I can speak Latin. And you look around and nobody else speaks Latin. You go, why did I do that?
Yeah.
Now you know the Dewey Decimal System. And the only time, when was the last time it came up before us complaining about it right now? Be honest. I wish I had a basketball hoop and tiny Nerf ball in here. I would be laying it up all the time. Swish. That's what I call that one, Gavin.
I don't know. I wonder, is it still used in libraries? Like in
as long as they're physical books, yeah, I guarantee. Because
that probably hasn't changed.
Who is the fire behind that? Like, oh, we got to update the Dewey Decimal System now that no, like,
yeah, maybe there's maybe some data people who are deep into it, but because I think when you go to a library, you just look it up online,
yeah,
and you can look up the title, and I don't know. I mean, you no longer have to go through the little.
Yeah, and you can also just step up go to a computer and go to Google and be like, I don't need a book.com because it's all there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Libraries will give you 10 pages on the printer for free or whatever.
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I miss libraries. I'm going to miss them because I used to go all the time.
The Cholla Branch Library in Central Phoenix was the one of my childhood.
I went to the one right next to the museum.
Yeah, and that's been there for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I've never existed without it, I don't think.
And apparently it's still, I've got some friends who work there, it's still a thriving library.
I'm so glad. I want to take my kid there. He's going to be confused. It'll be like walking through an Aztec temple to him. He's like, I don't understand all these ancient relics and cuneiform paper tablets. Ugh. But we got to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's where all the dinosaur books were, though.
Yes.
Those old temples. Yeah. And, but before I forget, my dumb little side thing about the bookmobile, which this came up a few months ago and I was like searching around for bookmobile stuff. I came across some article about the band Green Day, which is just to help. I'm going to ask them. Okay, this is something my friend and I were talking about on the way here. Green Day, punk or pop punk?
It depends on when you're asking me. If you're saying, hey, Dookie, punk.
Okay.
You say, hey, eyeliner, guess what? Pop punk.
Okay. All right.
There's no cut and dry with Green Day. You can't. That's like saying, hey, what dinosaur is a dinosaur? A stegosaur or a T-Rex? They're both miles apart, though.
Right.
Pop punk but they have both.
Right.
I would definitely say that I fell off when the eyeshadow fell on.
Well,
personally, whatever your opinion.
I read that their first tour bus was what had been a bookmobile in Phoenix, Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, wow.
So I kind of went I wonder if that was my bookmobile, if that was this guys were driving around in.
Arizona's crazier than you think. Everybody thinks of it as just like whatever. Maybe you remember Tombstone, but nobody does. But like we have L. Ron Hubbard's house, we have a weird Scientology thing, we have Tombstone obviously, but we have old Tucson, like movie studios and stuff. Like we've got a bunch of weird stuff here that no one thinks about. And that's another weird connection is like somewhere there's a school bus or a bookmobile resting in a grave in a landfill somewhere that used to be from here. And Green Day threw up in it, probably.
Definitely.
It's the circle of life. It was useful and a return to the universe. So, speaking about that, let me run this up your flagpole because it's kind of geologically speaking. The concept of the Big Bang has been reoccurring to me. Just as a theory, you don't have to buy into this because it might be zany and crazy. But let's say, because everybody's been worried about I don't know why as a kid, you're worried about when the sun's going to go out.
Yeah.
It's like a really urgent need to know when the sun is going out when you're 9 or 8 or 7 or whatever. You go, oh my God, 15 billion years. And you go, whoo, barely missed it. And then that makes you think about the universe in general and at large. And you think, okay, so we're still expanding according to various calculations or whatever to a stable state. And then we're probably going to go right back in because gravity's going to pull us all together for another kapow. So has that ever crossed your mind? Because you study deep time, obviously. You're going for dinosaur bones. You're going for all these, 2-3 million year old camels and such. You have to, because in that frame of mind, you have to think, well, if it's this big, can it be this big and beyond? What do you think about that? Or is this too metaphysical?
Cosmological stuff is hard to think about.
Isn't it?
It's so big. A few months ago, while I was looking for dinosaurs, I had a podcast going, and it was an Infinite Monkey Cage. If you guys listen to that one, it's like a English version of Neil deGrasse Tyson's Star Talk, but it's really great. It's got it's Brian, what's his face? He's the English sort
classic
of equivalent.
Brian, what's his face?
Brian, what's his name? He's the English equivalent of Neil deGrasse Tyson. But it's him and some English comedians, and they have some scientists on talking about whatever. And that episode was about the inevitable heat death of the universe.
Right.
And they also, weirdly enough, had Steve Martin and Eric Idle as guests.
Huh. Well, Eric Idle I would buy because he's in all those history documentaries and stuff. So I mean, by the nature of the beast, he would have to absorb that. Steve Martin seems like a wild card.
It was a wild card, but it was great. And the scientists they had on, they were talking about the immense depths of time that are almost impossible to conceive of, leading up to these events where in the end these things are so far flung out in the future
Yeah,
that,
these huge galactic changes.
Yeah, that there's almost no way to even conceive of it.
Right.
And, things may change as our mathematical models change and stuff. But the idea that there will come a point relatively soon, that as expansion continues and as the stelliferous era ends, so when there's stars aren't being born anymore, basically. Right. And then there's a few. But
now running on the fuel sources we've got.
Yeah. But even during that time, expansion will be such that there will come a time where no stars will be visible from any other stars. So it'll be beyond the light horizon. So it'll be black no matter where you are in the universe. You couldn't see another star.
Completely understandable as long as you can wrap your head around infinity.
Yeah. And easy.
So I get you. I get that.
And I, weirdly enough, I've been thinking about that the last few months when I'm having problems doing something like, I hate trying to fix my car.
So
algae's a pool. Hey, you know what? Someday there's going to be heat death in the universe, and there will be absolutely no molecules. And
think about this.
We can't ruin that, at least.
No, but think about this. Since there was that one explosion, and it's all going to be like, okay, now everything is at zero, right? Why would that only happen once?
Oh, why wouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. And I know that's when people start talking about multiverses and what's beyond.
Well,
that's beyond.
This sort of my theory, my crackpot theory, sort of collapses the multiverse theory. Because in an infinite timeline, a Mobius strip of time, where the universe is blowing up, expanding, life, etc., the heat death, then all that's left is gravity. And eventually, pop, boom! Again, and again, and again, for infinity. This could be the 1 billionth time we had this conversation. Like, so it's amazing to me how far you can take that microscope out. And it'll blow your mind if you start thinking about it too deep. But you seem like the appropriate target dealing with having to grapple with millions of years. And once that sort of, you can go, oh, well, whatever. It's just a lot. And then you can sort of approach it from a nice detached point of view. Because if you're too invested, it'll drive you crazy.
Yeah. At some point, you have to just
let go and let Mothman.
Yeah.
So that's our saying around here.
What's your saying?
Let go and let Mothman. Or let Mothman take the wheel. I'll let you pick either one you want. Those are free. Everybody who walks in that door gets one of those for free when you leave.
I like that. Mothman was maybe the scariest fake monster that I liked when I was a kid.
Scariest?
Yes, I was most scared of Mothman.
Huh. I was, we didn't have any.
Because those were the other books in the bookmobile were the books about Bigfoot, UFOs, Mothman, and...
maybe if you were just into dinosaurs, you were also into cryptids, because there was always those two types of kids growing up. The mechanics with their cars and and then us with our dinosaurs and our weird like dragon toys or whatever. And dinosaurs just sort of leads into cryptids. Because
maybe
if you think about it, dinosaurs are the most insane thing that ever existed that we have proof of. So, of course, as a child, you're going to be like, so what else? Why not a Mothman? Why not a Jersey Devil? And then X-Files is like, bam, nail in that coffin.
Wow. Yeah.
Especially if you grew up around that time. So, I mean, come on. It's just a layup. You say, well, I love dinosaurs. And then you hear the urban legend of, well, there's a sauropod living in Africa. And you go, what? Because you're 8.
Yeah, and then they make a horrible movie called Baby.
Yeah.
Which I had to watch
so sad.
recently for a museum thing. I had to do you took. It was the class. It was for the natural history class. And they asked me to do a...
Sadness in the movies.
Yeah, they asked me to do a dinosaurs in the movies PowerPoint. And I went looking through old movies and I'm like, oh, Baby, this dinosaur movie from 1985 about that very thing, about African modern sauropods.
Your classic cryptid. Maybe most believable aside from Loch Ness, because everybody knows what an elasmosaur looks like. A Mothman, you go, what?
Yeah, right. Baby was horrible. That was just, I tried, and this was like, I thought, I remember seeing that when I was a kid. It was kind of charming, and it had...
But then it's
what's her name? I like Sean Young, and she was cute. And
the 80s were so brutal to children, though.
Yeah.
The 80s were like, it was like the old hickory stick was the 80s to a child's buttocks, because you got The Secret of Nim, you got Rockadoodle, all the things that are like still in like that sort of Don Bluth dark sort
What's
of.
What's Rockadoodle?
Oi, oi, oi. If you want to talk about Rockadoodle, we can talk about it.
My 80s movies, kids movies, were all the ones where the kid like a bunch of kids had some adventure that their parents didn't believe, but then they ended up like
Did you see The Last Unicorn?
I was gonna ask.
no.
No.
I remember the ads for it.
Well, that
I
was
never saw it. But...
yeah, that one's another
Is that
brutal.
a cartoon
like-
or is that a?
yeah, it's
Okay.
bone-crushingly sad cartoon.
Oh wow.
Oh, and also mildly confusing for a young yours truly. But we'll get into that later. Rockadoodle is what looks like, for all intents and purposes, your nice sort of upbeat Disney movie where they're singing and dancing, and Glenn Campbell plays a rooster named something or other. I can't remember. Chanticleer.
Oh
Chanticleer.
wow, I think I remember.
And the kid goes, Chanticleer, Chanticleer. And then it gets insanely dark when the owl steals the sun from people by making Chanticleer forget to crow. Like, essentially, for all intents and purposes, the G-rated version of getting him liquored up and sending him to a whorehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like this bone-crushing, brutal, sad story that mixes in with reality, and this poor kid who's like got a crappy family and is now escaping to an even crappier situation where he's a cat. The 80s were rough. I'm telling you, man.
Wow.
The fact that we survived, I can't believe we're here.
Yeah.
But we've done it before.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
That was the last, maybe also the last time period when your parents let you go outside and build things like dangerous forts in trees and with rusty nails. And
it's crazy. The more we become aware of the things, I mean, they don't happen less. It's just we stress our kids out more. It was, oh, look out.
We made a fort when I was a little kid.
Oh, yeah, they're the best.
It was a tree fort in Palo Verde, which is, the most Phoenix thing you can think
Classic.
of. And this one kid in the neighborhood decided, we got to make it we got to put like
no girls allowed.
Girls.
Right?
We got to put booby traps so girls don't get in here.
Oh, classic booby traps.
And so they put things like nails in the ground. Things are like,
God.
and we hid things where if you stepped on part of a plank, a rock would come up right at eye level and knock you out. And we were all proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then the girls in the neighborhood were like, could you show us these booby traps? And my friend Anthony and I went, yeah, we're going to show you where the booby traps are. And they were like, could you show us like how they work? And so we hurt ourselves because they were like,
classic. Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. When you're a kid, you do things like that regardless of how the danger. Because when you're a kid, on the cartoons, when you see Bugs Bunny pick up a board with a nail in it, no one ever gets really hurt.
Yeah.
So when you find one in the vacant lot in the neighborhood, you go, nice.
Yeah.
You don't go, whoa, that's dangerous. Takes a while for that to click. So now let's now that all that is out of the way, let's talk about the T-Rexes and the whether or not where you are in time listening to this news thereof. So recently, everybody's like, oh my gosh, they're all over the place. There's a bunch of them. And I was like, not for nothing, but duh, right? Let's be real about this. Everything moves in patterns. We have large carnivorous predators today, right? So why wouldn't T-Rexes move as ones today move? If you scale up literally everything in the environment, you scale up the food, you scale up the prey animals, why would they act any different?
Yeah, well, I think that is kind of, you're talking in particular about how the number of them, one of the papers has determined that there were 2.5 billion of them over the 3 or so million years that they existed, possibly. So, they used a lot of comparisons with modern critters to try to say, okay, well, here's what you're saying. Here's things now that are on the landscape, but they also made a lot of assumptions that they, I guess, had to make if they were going to kind of move forward with this kind of project.
Yeah.
And some of the criticisms I've read about it are not really bad criticisms. They're saying, well, they decided they wanted to try to do this project, and they came as close as they could to answering it with the data they had. So they decided,
you can only work with what you got.
Yeah. But in the paper, they also mentioned that a lot of it depends on how long that species actually did exist.
Right.
Which is still, I guess, kind of a little bit up in the air.
Oh, like completely. You get windows of millions of years.
And then also, they only have about 40 or so, I think, adult specimens still now. And they're kind of still only in certain areas. And so, there was just a lot of extrapolation and stuff. And actually, it looked like the 2.5 billion number was kind of a conservative estimate.
Totally.
They had depending on some of the numbers that they could have put together, they had a really big range of decisions they had to make and assumptions they had to make. And so it could have been up to, I think, I don't know if I have it in this one, but one of them was something like possibly up to 40 billion.
Yeah,
of them
it's like an insane amount.
If the period of time had been longer that they were living. So
that sort of ties
it's the first time it's been done. And so that's kind of one of the big things about it is I think it's the first time this had been attempted with dinosaurs at all, I believe, which is that alone is a pretty cool thing.
A lot of this stuff feels like we're trying to prove the inevitable to each other with almost no evidence. Like, take the everybody's favorite, the feathers versus no feathers Tyrannosaur, or if that's the corn in your craw, the Nanotyrannus debate, where you fall on that. Number one, who cares? We're going to find out eventually because we're not stopping. So why keep fighting over something that isn't conclusive anyway?
8-year-olds care.
I know,
They're
8-year-olds.
going to run the world.
So that's when you double down. You say, yeah, it's Kong versus Godzilla with this Nanotyrannus. Is it a juvenile or is it its own thing? And you play to the crowd. You're a carny essentially in that situation. You say, hey, who thinks what? And you go, whoa, nice answers. And you don't ever you sort of leave it as a mystery and you go, oh, woo. And you have a smoke pellet when you fly out of the room. I mean, you don't have to be that dramatic. That's just what I would do if I were a paleontologist. But
I'm trying to remember where most Tyrannosaur people, which side of that they land on.
It depends on who you go to, because I know Pete Larson is in love with the idea that it is its own species. Lock, stock, and two smoking barrels, man. And if you follow him on Instagram, he's like, hey, here's another cast of a giant thing from the Black Hills Institute. P.S. Nanotyrannus has its own thing. He'll tag it out of nowhere for no reason. So I know where he's at. But it's again, that's the Torosaurus versus the Triceratops thing. Is it the final evolution of this Pokemon? Who knows and who cares, you know? That's the craziest thing about all of this. Like when the Spinosaur shows up on the scene. Oh my God. And they go, how does this thing work? Well, obviously it did, because it existed. You can't hold it in your hand and be like, nope, it's crazy. How did it do that? Nope. Woo, throw it away. Doesn't exist. Are you kidding me? You're holding... that's another thing that broke my heart when I was old enough to realize the fossils weren't actually bones. I just thought they were, really heavy because they were dinosaurs and they were big. And they were like, no, it's rock. I was like, no, you're a liar. I ran up to my room and I was crying in my pillow like Bastion on the Never Ending Story. Rain pouring through the window.
Movie, kids movie, good pull.
Lots of
One of the
horrifying things. Yeah, horrifying things happened to me. I watched everybody die. Out the window, there was a horse sinking into mud. Oh, God, I said. And they're not rocks. There are rocks, I said. That was the worst part.
And that movie was made in the 80s in Germany, so they probably did drown that horse in mud.
Oof. Yeah. I shudder to think. How many people went into that giant turtle costume and never came out alive? I'm just like, uh-oh, we need another actor. We're dubbing the voice anyways. Just do this until you can't anymore, and then we'll... Tell you, man, 80s was a wild time. But enough about the 80s. We're talking about Tyrannosaurus Rexes, and I keep pulling us off topic. So, what have you... Give me some of the facts that you've been researching. I don't want to, disregard all the work you've done to come on this show.
I've just been kind of looking at the same stuff about Tyrannosaurs that's been in the news lately, which has been sort of this, how many were there? At least Tyrannosaurus Rex in that particular one. They're talking about Tyrannosaurus Rex in particular. Right. But then there have also been some recent things about Tyrannosaurs. In fact, I think Teratophonius, so an earlier Tyrannosaur in Utah, it's about 75 million year old critter. A bunch of them maybe sort of found a bunch of them together, like they're all dead in a bone bed.
Yeah. And
that's kind of bringing up hey, were they social? Did they hunt in packs? Were there cooperative sort of things like that?
It seems like every time somebody's like, did they? It's elementary, dear Watson. It just feels like, yes, of course. You because just think about it like this. We've got all the pack animals and whatnot. We're trying to find fossilized evidence, but trying to flash freeze something as it kills another thing with all of its friends around it, and maybe a note that says, yeah, we all were hanging out. But it just makes sense. Here's not if you, somebody might find this interesting. I don't even know if I do, but maybe that one was the, essentially it was that giant sauropod that got stuck in the mud and then it got eaten away. And so it's just 4 legs that they found standing because the sauropod walked into quicksand essentially and was like eviscerated by every predator that came by. So it was just 4 legs. And they go, well, that's crazy. How could that ever happen? Well, sheep do it today in Scotland. So you say, well, it's the same thing. Yeah, of course. So yeah, all these things that they say, like the behavior, they behave like animals, right?
Yeah, but that's like the golden. That's the holy grail, is to try to figure out what the heck they were doing, how were they behaving. So that's why everybody gets so excited and so passionate about like what was it doing. It had to have been, and it's. I think we're wired to pick a side. Yeah, we want to pick
definitely. It's everybody's favorite thing. Dinosaurs has everybody's favorite thing. It has tribalism, and it has the unknowable.
Yeah, and then so in a sense you can sort of, oh, you can't prove me wrong, kind of.
Yeah,
but sometimes you can.
It's every 4-year-old's Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
Everybody can pick a side, and nobody can tell anybody that they're wrong.
Until there's more data, but then people,
even then,
they don't want to hear it.
You can pick it apart, yeah.
Yeah. So the sociality thing, I guess, in one of these papers I was reading, Thomas Carr, who's maybe the Tyrannosaur researcher of note right now, at least for the later larger Tyrannosaurid.
Okay, I would say, not my personal opinion, would be probably Dave Hone, but I've been out of that ring for a while.
Oh,
the Tyrannosaur ring, that is.
The Tyrannosaur.
I had a kid, so I fell off of, maybe, who knows, maybe Carr jumped in and was like, yeah, I have the belt of the T-Rex,
Well, I guess it's, I mean, I don't have a personal
I'm yanking your chain.
But he's one of the people that he's done a lot of work and does a lot of work on large tyrannosaurs, and he's one of the go-to people that he's asked when there's some Tyrannosaur research comes out. They ask Thomas Carr, and he basically said, well, and his answer is kind of non-committal, but kind of respectably non-committal, because he said, and he was not involved in the research on this bone bed of Teratophonius. But he said, I wouldn't be surprising. I mean, think archosaurs are social, birds are social, crocodilians are social in their manner. So, the more information that we find, it wouldn't necessarily be surprising. He didn't say that I believe that this points to evidence of, pack hunting, shared, whatever. He just said,
but I don't think for the longest time, I don't think anybody was looking. I think when Cope and Marsh are, blasting apart mountains, they're not necessarily looking for in situ clues. They're looking for headlines.
They're looking for headlines back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do I make the other guy look bad?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, it doesn't help when you put the head on the
on the other end.
The other end. But,
that's what's so, I mean, you're right though, but that's what's so cool about all this new research in paleontology is everybody's looking at all these different lines of evidence to answer all these questions that they didn't even know to ask before.
Yeah.
They had Cope and Marsh, even if they did care, would probably have not even
have no
thought
context
to ask or how to even look.
Yeah. We're lucky
things to look for.
Yeah, we're lucky that in the American Southwest they had progressed beyond digging up the bones and being like, oh, they're the bones of one of our great gods, and they build a giant coffin fort and rebury it. We're like the fact that they noticed that it was a thing at all. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's been a refining. Obviously, every year, it's like when we first got them and they're in everybody loves that slow motion black and white footage. Completely scientifically inaccurate. That's your Model A, your Model T. Now, who knows where we're like at an 87 Mustang. Like they're kind of getting, is that where we're at? We're kind of in the mid, because every time somebody releases a revision of this, that, or the other dinosaur, they get sleeker, they get this, they get that. And yeah, because we're looking.
Yeah.
Now they're no longer just like, whoa, weirdos. They go, well, now we got to look at how they did the things they did.
Or they get pudgier like Sue. That we were actually, Nikki and I were just talking about Sue on the way over today, how that's an example of something that has more data and more research has been done on it. And now Sue is now kind of a barrel shaped horizontal. She does not look as svelte and it's
and that's the beauty of having intact specimens like Sue or Tristan or whoever as most intact T-Rex as you can. now that we get to because technology is now at a point where they can scan the bones, be like, this is where the tendon scars are. And so every time a scientist goes over it, someone goes, oh, well, here's the thing. And they erase it. And they're getting weirder and weirder, but still, you see 2 legs and 2 tiny arms. It just sort of locks in, no matter how it stands or whatever. And that's the beauty of them. They're monsters. They can be whatever you want. Especially if...
Yeah, but you gotta back up your reconstruction of your monster.
Right.
And someone else is going to come and say, you know what? You didn't look at this, this, and this.
I think...
Which is always going to happen, which is good. And so some of the new paper about T-Rex not being able to run necessarily, or not being able to run, but probably had a much slower walking gait than people had previously thought, and that frankly people want it to have. Everybody wants T-Rex to be running after Jeff Goldblum, and
and why not? It would be an apex predator, so it always seems bizarre to me because Horner's probably still blowing that trumpet of mostly scavenger sort of thing.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
I can see it both ways,
yeah.
But with such a body mass and the necessity for calories, and now some sort of concrete evidence of the massive numbers, because you think,
yeah, but that's over the entire lifespan of the species.
But it's like roaches. For every fossil you find, you're lucky. It was lightning in a bottle. We just have lightning striking all over bottles all over the place. Because for every one that dies and falls into the perfect spot, how many countless hundreds of thousands
exactly
scattered to the universe and are but dust?
That's in fact one of the fun things about the abundance paper was that they calculated something like it based on the 2.5 billion T-Rex over the 147,000 generations. I think they said
woof.
Each generation being 19 years long that they calculated.
Roughly, yeah.
There would be about 20,000 Tyrannosaurus Rex in North America at any given time. And I think they said that about, would they say 888,000 acres per T-Rex? So they would have been, 20,000 at a time in the entire world basically is not really that much.
No, not really.
But then, of course, that's over. So there's probably not a...
So where are you on the
pack?
The pack idea?
I don't know if I have an opinion. I don't think I'm smart enough to have an opinion because that's when it gets into these things where I sometimes worry that people are using modern analog animals too much to model extinct non-avian dinosaurs, which they're gone.
Right.
And there's nothing like a stinking Diplodocus now.
Right. So, but the thing is, what in your mind makes dinosaurs break away from the mold of modern animals? If everything is sort of moving in cycles and we've seen these waves of coming and going, and even the giant mammals and stuff, because we have some sort of proof that the mammoths and the mastodons and your megalotheriums and your yada, yada, yadas acted pretty much like animals do today. So to you, what makes the dinosaurs different?
So, well, no, you're right. They were animals. And I can't think of another. You have to have something that you're laying your comparison against.
Right. Because else it doesn't exist.
And the large things we have now are the large things we have now. And so I think it's fair to a point to use them as analogs, but gosh, there's just a point where I think it's using a large mammal as maybe an analog for some dinosaur doing something, using all the terrestrial apex predators except for a big old monitor lizard or something, they're all mammals. And the biggest carnivore is a bear. The biggest terrestrial carnivore right now is a bear, right? I think a polar bear. Although I think some people consider polar bears marine mammals because...
we won't split hairs. I'll take your word that it's a land animal.
But it's, we gotta have some way to try to figure out how these things were moving and behaving.
Right. But it just sort of... Because nature has been nature since nature has been nature, if that makes any sense to you. And if you're tired of hearing me say the word nature, here it comes. Because there's always going to be niches in every part of that ladder, you know what I mean? And just because you scale up one or the other, maybe it's the old way of thinking, because we're all still in that reptilian mode. But we're all, me especially, fighting the bird connection, regardless of your emotion. we're fighting the bird connection and sort of denying them their intelligence that they probably deserve, because we're saying, well, they're not reptiles. They weren't cold-blooded. We're pretty sure they were blah, 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 blah. And so if they're a hybrid of bird and lizard, why couldn't they have filled all the niches and been like smart enough eventually? Obviously a stegosaur with a walnut in his head. Who knows what that guy's doing? Whatever.
He's doing fine is what he was doing.
Yeah, he was doing great.
He was doing fine.
He figured it out.
It figured it out. They were filling the niches. And just
so why would
because
their
we don't have
behavior
them
change? It's my question. Why would you expect their behavior to change in those niches? Because they're filling the same thing.
Oh, I see. Which I see.
Because a pteranodon is still going to be a seafaring bird, like a seagull. It's going to eat fish and go, "Whoa," and like whatever. It's going to be a little weirdo hopping around with it and crapping everywhere, just like seagulls do. Because that's the nature of the niche. So it's crazy to me. Not crazy.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that dinosaurs make a disconnect. We say, well, no. They didn't act like animals. They were a little bit different. They weren't like modern things, but they're filling the same holes in the same rock.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say?
No.
That's
I mean, I think that's also a good argument for reconstructing them as having similar behavior patterns as modern animals, because you're right. But there's also possibly niches that we can't even think because they're gone. You know?
Totally.
But
because all of it, like it is gone. You like what? You probably don't know hard numbers, but the amount of species that get caught in rock versus the ones that maybe never even.
Mm-hmm.
If you live nowhere near water, maybe you were lucky, maybe you weren't. Who knows? Obviously, the most of them we're finding are around water. So who knows what we lost altogether?
Yeah.
So in my mind,
there have been
you just
calculations.
Have to just say,
there have been people who've tried to calculate that, and I think
good luck.
There's some that are more valid. Some calculations more valid than others.
I think, the Earth has a critical mass because it's a closed system. You cannot put more than it can sustain. It's just all. I love that we're getting proof so we can all play in the sandbox and be like, no, my T-Rex does this and mine does that. And mine was smart. Mine has feathers and mine was like an elephant or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. But when you step back and you go, well, they were animals. The niches are the same.
Yeah.
But aberration. Nature abhors a vacuum, and if there's something weird to fill, it's going to get filled.
Mm-hmm.
Spinosaur is like a classic example of that because it became, this hyper carnivore. They really sensationalized it, and then when they sort of like, psych, it's actually the first aquatic dinosaur, but still cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, it's turning into like this gross hot dog with a like a taco shell stabbed in the back, and its face is all weird now, and it's like a weird crocodile head with these derpy eyes, and you go, But that's the price of science. You got to march forward, even if you don't like it.
Is that so? Let me ask you this then: if we're going to play this game,
sure. It
sounds like you're disappointed about Spinosaurus. Now, I will tell you, I am disappointed about Dinochirus.
Really?
Yes, because when I was a kid, Dinochirus was just a pair of awesome giant arms with huge claws. And it was like, well, this clearly, once we find the rest of it, because these claws were an 8-foot long arm with huge slashing claws.
Mm-hmm.
What in the crap was this monstrous, awesome thing?
Yeah.
And then it's a big, dorky ornithomimid that looks like a... I mean, it's still cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still cool because it's one of these things we're talking about.
I had to... Listen, Gavin, here's what I'll tell you. Every time I have any anxiety in my life, I let go and I let Mothman. Because that's when I started being like, whatever. Because when the scientists get together and they say, well, we're going to reconstruct the Spinosaur based off of pictures of very few fossils that a German guy found and then blew up.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. But when we know what we were looking for, we were able to find it. It's like we didn't know where a black hole was. One person was like, I think that's one. And now they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. Is it a coincidence? No. You look for something and you find it. And I think that's when it snapped for me, when it went from Spinosaur being basically a T-Rex with a big head and huge spine, the hyper carnivore that the media was making it out to be, when it turned into like that wiener dog shaped cylinder alligator concoction that we have today. I was like, you know what? You just can't get married to anything. You can't get married to any idea.
That's actually the good, that's there it is right there. I think that's the...
Because someone's going to come along, and because I'm going to have to eat a lot of crow if they find, God forbid, if they find a T-Rex flash frozen somewhere and it's nose to tail feathers, I'm going to have to go and make a lot of apology letters. You know what I mean? But I will gladly do it because it's a step forward in concrete, like irrefutable, something.
Yeah. But you're right. Some of it it's, but even sometimes when you do go looking someplace, you don't find what you're looking for. You find something else. Sort of maybe Oviraptor.
Yeah,
is an example of that, where they kind of initially thought that, oh look, these things were eating the eggs. It's like, no, go back and look. Look, it's sitting on the clutch, and then they found those weird heads of those things, and
Mongolia gave us some weird ones, man. Yeah. I bring this up all the time, but the classic Velociraptor,
Psittacosaur,
Protoceratops, yeah, that classic comic book shot. But that you have to see is like, because everybody looks at that who's not into paleontology, not into the idea that these are so rare. Like, that's lightning in a bottle that struck a cloud that was in a smaller bottle that then struck another bottle. And you're like, what?
That fossil is so amazing.
Incredible.
I half expect it to be debunked one of these days. Someone's going to look at it and go,
but then,
oh, look, they're going to find something about it and say this part is fake.
I don't think it's going to be a Piltdown Man situation, but even if it is, and that's like, oh no, it's a classic P.T. Barnum gaff. We still have like the dinosaur mummies, like those. I don't think can be debunked. We've got like skin impressions from Leonardo and all the other hadrosaurs.
Oh yeah, no, and that's.
But no one knew to look because they didn't know they existed.
No.
So now
sometimes people will dig through that stuff because they don't know it's part of the fossil. It'll just be, we got to get rid of this to get to the bone. Just
think of how many things were chipped away by Cope and Marsh lackeys or blown away.
Yeah. Still are today, I'm sure. One of the oh God, Lord, I'm just thinking about Psittacosaur, the amazing. Who the heck would have thought that who would have said this thing had weird quills coming out of its back and tail? No, that's the most ridiculous, awesome thing.
But since you have to see it a millimeter at a time, your brain has to work overdrive. So, yeah, that's the craziest thing about being a paleontologist, or even just looking in the yard for something you lost. You can lose sight of it in your mind, and if you do, you've lost it. As long as you can keep your mind open to literally anything, and you don't get closed in, you can find whatever. Like my fabled fake shark's teeth that are now those crinoid chunks from the paleo site.
Yes.
That was the scientific method, and it broke my heart.
Yeah.
But I still tell myself they're shark's teeth because I said, Gavin doesn't know what he's talking about.
They look like shark's teeth.
I know what I'm doing. And then I put them in my mouth and run around the house. You can't stop me. So, what's happening with the museum? I love that place. Is anything going to be... I know the Jurassic 70 million years BC is rolling into...
Has an opening date now.
Okay, good.
Ooh.
So 75 million BC is going to be open on July 1st.
Okay.
And there's actually an exhibit that's also going to be opening that date called Ologies. And that is an exhibit that we put in the room next to where the 75 million BC exhibit is.
Okay.
And the Ologies exhibit is...
Was it where the old...
Dino Zone. It's where Dino Zone...
Okay, yeah, that's what I expect. That's local reference disclaimer. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, is that where the T-Rex was? That was like you had to take a picture of it with
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And even before that, there was like a... Gosh, you said you've been coming to the museum for a long time. Before it was...
70 years.
Okay, so do you remember then there was a weird little history, small town looking little like cardboard, hey, come and see our milk thing.
Yeah.
That was in that gallery.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It was the history gallery is what it used to be. So now the exhibit that's going in there now, Ologies, is a kind of a smaller exhibit that's going to emphasize the research we do at the museum. So it's going to say, look, we've got 2 research departments. And we have collections in both research departments, and these collections are used for research. Kind of a way to show this is what a museum is.
An active living museum.
An active living museum doing active research, and we have collections for this reason.
We're
not just a gallery.
From the outside, it's easy to forget that like museums are learning institutions. When you show up and you're just a layman, you're like, oh, it's the dinosaur place, or it's where the rocks are, or whatever. But it's so easy to like the research center's right across the street.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff going on all the time. And that's like one of the coolest things about it is like when new stuff happens, it shows up in the museum. I miss some of the dinosaurs, old animatronics. I realize they are gone.
There's still some on
It
the mountain.
stings. I know, but they're not the
you
ones
missed
from
the
my
old ones.
Yes,
from
I miss
childhood.
those.
Those
I
were
miss
old when you were there.
I know.
think they were like
I could tell.
10 years old when
I could tell. In my heart, I was like, this is not cutting the mustard, but what are my other options?
Right.
I miss having to question whether or not I was going to pee my pants when I ran around to the mammoth
Oh, the
with the
scary
Chandler
mammoth.
mammoth.
Oh, that wow!
I had to psych myself up. I
you
go,
were actually scared of that? That
for
worked?
real,
I'm
totally.
gonna
But
tell
I had to
everybody
do
that.
it. Every time I had to do it because it was part of the museum experience. I go,
Yeah.
"Ah!"
We were-
Head down.
We were wondering. I think we're half joking, but kind of thinking about it. For the 75 million exhibit, it's going to be a semi-immersive. We're kind of trying to take you back to what was going on then.
Mhm.
And part of what was
It's
going
so
on
cool.
back then
Woof.
is there were occasional volcanoes about every million years or so, I think, going off. Those volcanoes are ultimately responsible for most of the copper that's coming from Arizona, which is kind of cool. So we're making that connection. But something that was more common was wildfires, like seasonal wildfires. And we were kind of initially going, oh, could we make it smell like smoldering fire? In
Yeah,
that
have
might
like
scare
an
people.
incense
They come
puff.
in and they're like, is this building
The
on
museum
fire?
burning down.
Have little
Use like a nice
you know,
cherry wood, something you use on a barbecue.
Yeah.
And people go,
have like blow embers
Yeah,
at
yeah.
people. And,
yeah. Just have a smoker in the corner,
Just-
flicking ash at
Yeah.
the kids.
it would make like the Tyrannosaurus breath smell like rotted meat or
Oh,
something
that'd be-
cool like that.
You
But,
know,
probably can't get
full
by with that.
disclosure, I've weaseled my way into
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing more than once, and we got to see behind the scenes. It is so cool. Everything that's going in there, and it's been a while since we've been in there to see all the stuff. But even in the proto stages, like the Tyrannosaur, the Hadrosaur with the beautiful orange color. Oh my god, the giant turtle, the whole like
Yes.
Indiana Jones sort of Temple of Doom cave
Yeah.
type scenario. It's gonna be really cool.
That's all Benji Paisno, who
Yeah.
he's our
He's incredible.
he is incredible. He is our newest exhibits employee artist and sculptor. And he like makes dinosaurs in 20 minutes. He built in fact, that Tyrannosaur was a good example of something that the curator, Dr. Bob, said, okay, we need a Tyrannosaur. We don't exactly know which one we have. We've got basically teeth from that area. So we know it's not a T-Rex. It's about 10 million years too young for a T-Rex, too old for a T-Rex. So some of the other Tyrannosaurs that were kind of around at the time, and he kind of made a thing that's a bit of a hybrid between a Bistahi Verser and I think Teratophonius. It's great, and he's in the Hadrosaur. And all of those dinosaurs that are in there that are being built, and he's also going to be building part of a little part of an ankylosaur. Those are, it's kind of neat because these are things that we don't know what they are yet exactly. We know broadly, what family they're from. But
Yeah. These can be the
we're actually
outdated
doing-
books for our kids.
Yeah, we're doing the research right now, basically, to try to figure out, can we figure out who they are exactly? And in most cases, we probably, at least from the specimens we have now, we probably won't because we don't have the diagnostic pieces that we need specifically.
Yeah.
But in some cases, we might. So,
They're
we
coming,
can
though.
say, okay, we know some of the other things that were in the region during the time, so this is a pretty good guess. I mean, sure, these things may be brand new, but we have not yet been able to do the research to be able to tell that, and that's partially because we don't have the bits yet.
Yeah.
And we're still a lot to clean off. We still have to clean off things, bits of bone, so maybe things will appear.
Paleontology is more art than science than more people than even the scientists will lead you to believe. It's like case in point, like sauropod heads. They crush like eggshells. We got vertebrae, Matt Wadel with his sauropod vertebrae of the day on Twitter and everything. In his book, he's like, where are the heads? Chimaerosaurs, they were lousy with them. So, of course, they're rolling around like tennis balls. But when you can find like an Argentinosaur and you have one bone, you have one femur, you have one toe bone or one leg, something the size and shape of essentially a hen's egg with these giant monsters running around. Good luck. That, story of the Brontosaurus' life. So sad.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's art because you say, oh, well, based on this vertebrae, one bone. Probably look like this, you know, diddly-diddly-boop. And I think scientists don't, like you especially, you're drawing all the time so you can see that there's that connection. And if you look closely, everybody is, like Horner and Bacher and everybody, they can sit down and draw you up a dinosaur because that's a necessity of the job, I imagine, right? Because how do you not draw dinosaurs if you're a paleontologist? Because you're going to have to tell someone something, or you're going to be staring off into space at some point. There's going to be paper nearby. I've seen your Instagram. And cats. What's up with the cats, by the way? Are you a cat fan, or are you a...
I hate cats.
Okay, because all your cats are like these very rough and tumble characters, so I wanted to make sure I knew where I was standing.
No, that's not true. I'm lying. I'm a big cat softie. I'm a fan of cats.
Yeah, obviously, because they are very prominent in your artistic...
I think they're ridiculous. I think they're just ridiculous. I mean, especially if you think of domestic cats and you're like, what are you? You are a killer. Where you come from? And now you are... you will scream if someone takes you off your pillow. You are. Why aren't you out?
Animals live in the moment, but they all do it in insanely different ways. Like a dog, they'll be like, okay, here we are. Nothing's going on. Flop. Cats will be plotting your demise. Like you can see it. They're always planning, or even if they're not, you can just tell, when are you going to snap?
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Then if you live with, and that's true, but then if you live with cats long enough, you're like, that cat is plotting my demise. Then you realize that cat's too lazy to do anything. I mean, it probably still wants to kill me.
They're perfect.
But he's like, ugh.
Encapsulations of the universe. If you ignore it, it'll ignore you.
Yeah.
And then maybe eventually you learn to love it.
But it's kind of weird to think about maybe when people were starting to populate the Americas from Beringia. Their number one enemy would have been these giant cats. So probably try to get and now we're all like, oh, come here, Murray. I want to.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think that's one of humanity's like greatest like gotcha things that we like to hold against nature is like our domestication of the things that used to kill us. It's like, oh yeah, it's like now I gotta clean your crap up. How did that happen?
Who's got domesticated here?
Yeah, they went from murdering us to now getting like weighted on hand and foot. Yeah. Oh, we won. Yeah. Gotcha. Swish. Humans won. Cats, whatever. Yeah. But we like to hold that against nature. People say, oh, well, we were getting gored to death. You'd say, oh, we're going to go get dinner, and you and 12 of your best friends would get pointy sticks.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, 10 of us made it back, and we got tons of steak.
Yeah.
But then when you've got something small, you can keep at home. Yeah, you get lazy and you go, hey, remember we have to go run off and get those mammoths? Ha 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 ha. Go get me a goat. And they go, ooh, that's just day-to-day life then. You're living easy.
That makes me wonder about what's the status of Horner's and his group's Dino Chicken. I haven't heard anything about that lately.
I've stopped holding my breath on that one. I kept holding out hope that one day Twitter would explode and Jack Horner would be standing there like, or no, here's the scene I want. Sitting behind his office right next to the Myosaur wooden egg model and the original, like, because that's his claim to fame, the Myosaurs and Egg Mountain. But then right next to it, like, boom, chicken dinosaur. And his feet are up on the desk there, and his hands are back, and he's, confetti. I can't wait for that, because science isn't going to be fast enough. If I hold out expectations, I'm going to be sad. So I'm going to wait and be surprised if we have a Chickenosaurus. I can't stop looking. I can't keep looking because it hurts me in the heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't be like, hey, you can have a dinosaur in your lifetime. This isn't like in the 50s where by 2020 we'd be in rocket cars. I'm not going to go through that. I see the crest of that wave.
Yeah.
No. I'm waiting. The proof will be in the egg.
I'd heard that they were having a hard time with the tail. That's been the hardest part, is having the re-expression of the genes that are responsible for making the long tail.
Yeah, because they can get they got the teeth. I would be interested to see where they go with the arms, because that's where the money is. If you get a chicken with hands, proto hands even, I'm on board to the tune of $30,000. Not just kidding. I don't have that much money. You kidding me? You're on a podcast. This isn't a TV station.
So are they trying to make a dinosaur chicken?
Yeah. Jack Horner,
clone it?
I think Jack Horner, somebody was like, hey, Jack, this is a crazy idea. And he's like, I'm sold, because him and Bacher, if you're into that thing, are like the Cope and Marsh of today, but slightly more civil. One of them has the dinosaur heresies to hang his hat on, his incredibly large cowboy hat. And then, but then, I bet, I can't prove this, but I bet it chapped Bacher's ass that Horner got to talk on Jurassic Park. Like, right? Because Steven Spielberg says, Horner, come on to Jurassic Park and help us with the dinosaurs.
Okay.
Bacher didn't get that call.
Yeah, but Bacher got eaten in the second one.
I know.
Or was it the third one?
It was the second one, right? When they go to the island, and he's there, and he's like, yeah.
Okay.
With Vince Vaughn, I think.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. Moral of the story is our own Cope and Marsh, but no dynamite.
Yeah. The fourth movie.
Oh God, the fourth.
And I was
one.
just thinking about this the other day.
Is that the modern day?
That's the modern day one, where they
yeah.
go onto an island and there's like a theme park built.
Yeah, the dude needs his margaritas, and he's like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, that's come on,
Jimmy Buffett,
right?
Yeah.
But one of the things in that movie that I thought was the only realistic thing about that movie,
if you found one,
which I
hear it.
appreciated, was basically everybody was bored with dinosaurs. Like they were getting bored with them.
Mhm.
They were like, oh, okay, so what? Yeah, we've seen that now. What do you have next?
Yeah,
And I think that's real. I think if Horner made his Chickenosaurus in a couple months, people would be like,
right. That's the thing. A zoo is a zoo because there's no one in the background being like, and applying electrodes to piles of goo and making ligers and other weird animals. But yeah, if you open it up where now we can reverse engineer whatever, like, oh, this was a hummingbird, you go pop, now it's a microraptor. You're welcome. Like before long, they're in pet stores. We're off the rails as a society.
I get one.
Because cut ahead 100 years, whatever Netflix will be in 100 years, there's going to be a Dino King instead of a Tiger King.
Oh,
Someone's going to be like, hey, it's Mikey Exotic, and he bred raptors, and he was like, hey, ho, diddly dee, shooting guns off, and everybody's going to be like, oh, of course, he bred raptors, and it'll all just be ho-hum. Utah raptor, idiot. Like, oh, that's how they go in Oklahoma or wherever. Pick your poison. Someone's going to do it. Jack, please stop. It's for your own good. If you're listening. Gavin, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. And this is, as I mentioned, we have an ulterior motive also, other than talking about the cool stuff that was happening in the museum, is we're, my friend Nikki and I are here trying to stalk your podcast situation here.
Snipe what you want, man.
We're just seeing like how it's set up, how you do it. We're thinking of kind of starting our own. We've been talking about it for about 73 years now. But
take the plunge. I'll give you,
because nobody does podcasts, so
No.
this is like the new thing.
and that was true when I started. And everybody's like, "What's a podcast?" I'm like, "It's like radio on the internet."
Yeah.
And now you say it's like radio, and they go, "Woo."
Yeah.
What?
It is to me a lot like what I think old time radio must have been.
Yeah,
kind
it's
of.
talk radio. It's what I like to call, because it's what it is called. I don't like to call it that because I made it up. It's a warm media. Podcasting, radio, etc. is a warm media. You directly interact with your audience, whereas like with TV and other forms like that, you're working through a barrier. You're getting Nielsen ratings and you're sort of disconnected. And that's why TV is so stupid and slow about trends.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, well, this guy told this guy and he filled out a bubble sheet and yada, yada, yada. With podcasts and stuff, it's so grassroots, like you're eating them all the time because they're everywhere. You're always interacting with your audience, and that's worth it for that. The price of admission is worth it for that, because everybody who comes by is there for a reason. Like, this isn't 2.5 Men. We're not here being like, one of us has herpes. No, we're doing something like sincere and real, and that's why people are showing up to this. You know what I mean? They're not coming here for me. They're like, oh, we have a paleontologist, we have a rock star, we have a this, we have a that. So if I can hornswoggle people into learning something by coming here, gotcha.
Well,
So
I
here we are.
appreciate. Thank you for both of y'all supporting the museum and supporting us at every turn. And
It's dinosaurs.
yeah,
Plus
I mean
all the
that's
other
true.
crap.
Yeah.
Plus everything else.
Everything else. I like the minerals, full disclosure. The gems and the minerals. I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Someone had to.
So,
And can I take this chance to introduce a possible word into the vernacular?
sure. We'll do,
So-
tell you what, we'll do a double dip. We'll do staff recommendations after that. So think of something you want to recommend to our audience as you're telling me this word. It can be whatever you want or nothing. If you want to keep all your
product or a
anything you
or
want. You can do an exercise. You can a fun word.
A recipe.
Okay, a recipe.
A strange shape. You say, "Hey man, dodecahedron,
Rhombus.
nailed it."
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, I go 3
That's
dimensional.
the fun. That's the most. That might be the most fun shape to say.
Exactly.
Dodecahedron.
Yeah.
It's like the Paraceratherium.
Whoa.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a,
It's
boy.
the Paraceratherium and the dodecahedron are the 2 things that everybody should be dropping all the time, because people go, "Whoa, you're a paleontologist," and you go, "Whoa, see,
Yeah.
it's so easy." Just say therium, swish, and no one will question
nobody-
you.
yeah.
Make up the first part as long as it ends in therium. Just say it means beast.
All right, you know what? I will then say I would recommend anybody who likes coffee to visit OBC in downtown Mesa. It's right across the coffee shop, right across from the museum. Just reopened.
I wanna
we've
go
been
there
waiting.
So bad. Yeah.
Yes, in a new little place in actually a slightly bigger area. So I love their coffee. Thank
It's
you,
so
Rachel.
cute. That little place, that little cubbyhole with all the ivy and stuff. It's like it does not belong in Arizona.
That barrel and broom.
genre-wise.
It's so weird.
Barrel
It's so
and broom.
amazing and cool. It's like, and you bumble it. It's just like, what the heck?
Yeah, like I said, I've been going to that I want to say university. I'm going to that museum for nigh on 800, 900 years. Wasn't until like 3 years ago I found that place. I was like, what?
There's a hairdresser down that little.
It's kind of like that another
alleyway.
great local reference for everybody who listens all over the world, because we have them all over the place. But like that Dickinson's jewelry, somehow they survive everything all the time. It's like right next to the bookstore,
Oh,
the book gallery.
Yeah, it's down that
I
little
cannot
alley.
believe that you have not noticed it, but I also completely believe that
Right.
because it's completely forgettable. And
Yeah.
again, I just thought that hallway, like to get back and forth to
Just a
Milano's parking
breezeway.
lot, just a breezeway. There's businesses in there. You
Just
wake up
psychic.
that, you go, whoa,
Yeah.
there's people all over the place down here.
Yeah.
And they're never open.
Yeah,
It's a front, clearly, for
yeah.
some.
Downtown Mesa is like,
They do
Now-
cockfighting in there.
now that everybody's, it's possible. Now that everybody's picking it back up, I'm kind of bummed, but also happy, because like when everything was shut down, it was almost like walking around Disneyland by yourself.
yeah.
Get it? Because you get the cobblestone. It had all the quaint little statues or whatever, and it's like having a little like a pleasant Twilight Zone where you wake up and everybody's gone, and it turns out you're in a dollhouse or whatever. But you're totally fine. That's what downtown Mesa was, and now people are starting to come back, and I'm glad, because now the business can go back. But I'm like, my Wonderland. Anyway, somewhere back there before I started
What
talking.
was your word?
Yeah, your word.
Oh, my word. Okay, this is based on one of the things in one of these. I think it was the paper about the. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of the Tyrannosaur papers, and somebody said we're thinking of seeing if we can call a group of Tyrannosaurs a terror. That would be the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that made me think of the other night. I'm like, you know what? I want to coin a word for things. So I think we should call baby dromaeosaurs speedlings. So that I'm going to try to.
A baby.
So I have to write it in the paper. So I have to like. Find,
Speedlings.
yeah, I think it's cute.
Here,
Or velocilings.
like,
But that's that
when,
may be a little
when there
velociraptor.
is such a thing, when we exist in a reality where also the Draco Rex Hogwartsia is a thing, and you can point to it and be like, so that is named after Harry Potter. That's the world we live in now. Everything. Speedlings, call them younglings, you can call them. And that's the great thing about it, because everybody is now realizing science gets to be fun.
Yes.
You don't have to call them something boring. You don't have to be obnoxious to your friends like I am and say things like Paraceratherium. You can say things like, "Oh, it's the not the Hogwarts. What's his name? Harry Potter. It's the Harry Potter dinosaur or whatever." Yeah, go nuts. We got Zool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Who's gonna be like, "No, don't call it Zool.
Yeah,
I dare
yeah.
you. It's science." Give me a break. But T-Rexes didn't have feathers. What else you got for me, Gavin? Do you want to say anything else before we shut it down? I want to throw my support toward the museum. If you are local, check it out. They're probably still taking, as of this recording, like reservations for tickets. You can't just wander in off the street like some sort of...
Yes,
Laissez-faire.
still reservations are still pretty much just taking reservations. There are occasionally on weekends, I think they have a few walk-ins available, but they sell out immediately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you definitely get your thing online.
Yeah, check the
So you're not
website, check their
disappointed.
Facebook. Don't show up uninformed, people. You're going to an institution of learning. Don't be like, whoa, totally caught off guard, when it's all available on Google. This is not an official museum stance. I'm the one who's upset about it. As a citizen of this city, state, whatever we are.
But I think maybe I should. I don't know. On July 1st, when we're opening up again for all
For all to
our
see.
normal hours,
Mhm.
I get. You know what? I shouldn't say anything because I don't know for sure if we're going to be going to regular ticketing or if we're still going to try to keep.
Yeah. At this
Well,
point,
anyway.
it's Schrodinger's ticket. You don't want to
Yeah.
collapse that waveform.
No.
What if someone will call you on it and it'll be the wrong one every time?
No.
You say, "Oh, you killed it. The poison was in there,
It
Gavin."
was in there.
Da!
I just want to thank you guys. I want to thank my friend Nikki for driving me out here and making faces at me and being supportive.
Yeah,
And
as always, it's a blast. We get to talk about dinosaurs. We get to pontificate about stuff no one can prove wrong. So we're bulletproof.
see you at the heat death end of the universe.
Hell yeah, brother! It's a closed system. I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So, guys, thanks for listening. Also, the listener, I have to give them a shout out too. Thanks for listening. Don't tell anybody about this, though. We got to keep weirdos out of here. That's my new thing. Gavin. I say don't like, don't subscribe, and don't share. Because every time I say that, somebody's like, "Oh, I'll tell a friend," and I don't.
No.
I don't need weirdos sneaking in here. I got a nice fan base. I got some friends. I don't need anybody coming in with their dirty boots, stepping all over my furniture. Don't tell anybody about this. It's between you and me. Wink, wink. All right, guys. But definitely go to the museum. I got to put that out there. So, once again, thanks, guys, and we will see you next week. I've been Dave.
I'm Krista.
You say, I'm Gavin.
I am Gavin.
Nailed it. Saying, I still don't have a catchphrase for the end of the show. See ya.
For the try to
Fistful of Podcasts Radio.